we're talking about regional integration, let me use the Nigerian expression, all protocols observed. Because if I had to identify everybody in the room, it may take too long. So allow me to call all of you, each and every one of you, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for coming to listen to, I think, what is contestably probably one of the biggest changes that is going to be happening on our continent in this half-decade. It is the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. I think that when we talk about it as a monumental change, it is exactly that. It is that for many reasons. First of all, I think that for a very long time, and I will paraphrase Nelson Mandela, who once said, there is no pleasure in settling for a lot less when we can do a lot more. And I think that for a long time, Africa in general, and many of our sub-regions in particular, have settled for less. But we know that we can do a lot more, and we know that we can do a lot better. And I think that the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is that moment when we realized that as a continent, together we could be stronger, and together we could be more powerful. And I think that it is the implementation of Nelson Mandela's wish. And as the United Nations, we are celebrating the beginning of 10 years of Nelson Mandela, and a lot of what we do is in remembrance of what he said, but also as a man who struggled to bring Africa together. And I think that that is part of what the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement actually seeks to do, and that our leaders have put in place. What is the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement? But before I say much of that, many of you may not have come into contact with the Economic Commission for Africa, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa was put in place 60 years ago, essentially to support government and member states, particularly in Africa's independence. We were the first house of the Organization of the African Union. So it was in the Economic Commission for Africa that the first 23 leaders of Africa came together to declare political independence. So we're very privileged, and I in particular am very privileged to be at the ECA, and as we celebrate the ECA's 60 years. We have a booklet on the ECA that the dignitaries have on their table, but we also have a soft copy because we are trying to respect climate change and protect Cameroon's forest. So we will send it to you as soft copy. Eventually we will ask the rector maybe for your email and addresses. And you would see on the booklet the 23 heads of states that were at the time of the first independence and talking about political liberation. 60 years later, Africa has decided we have achieved most of what we would want at the political front, or anything that is still left, and there is still some left. We need to now move to, I think, deeper economic integration. And I think therein lies the importance of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. What is the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement as we talk about it? It's actually, as we talk, and essentially the vision of the ECA is a vision for a prosperous Africa. I don't think that that's a vision that any one of us will argue with. But beyond just being a prosperous Africa, we do need, and we know that a lot of the constraints on the continent are around the issue of implementation. So we are working at the Economic Commission for Africa with my colleagues that are here, and Pedro that is here. Cameroon is lucky to have our sub-regional office located in Yaoundé. So you have the advantage of having a lot of our staff here with you. Africa's economies, and where are we? I think that we have lived in an economic, we're living through an economic phase where we see multilateralism and sort of global trade. We lived through a period in the 2000s where growth was expanding. Africa was growing at 6% on average. Some countries were growing at 10%. I think there was, and Minister Alamin will recognize this, but most of us will, almost what we will call irrational exuberance. We thought this growth spurt would never end. Oil prices were at $100. Countries like Cameroon and many oil exporting or commodity exporting countries, as you would see, were essentially booming. There was a lot of revenue. Interest rates in the developed countries was very low, so a lot of our countries had access to markets. We went on the capital markets. I think Minister Alamin at the time also went to the capital markets. We were able to raise resources because interest rates in the West were quite low. All that came to a halt. 2008, we got the financial crisis. There was a retreat. 2014, we got the crash in commodity prices. I think those two shocks, which you can see on the graph, first in 2008, was the financial crisis, and secondly, in 2014, the commodity crisis, dealt a very heavy blow to Africa. We had gone from 6% growth for over 10, 12 years. A lot of the work that we've done at the Economic Commission for Africa, but across the intellectual space, essentially shows that to have sustainable growth, to reduce poverty, to improve livelihoods, you actually need to sustain growth at 8-9% for a period of 20 years. Africa did it for 12, and then we got the crisis. So we were never able to get to the last 8 years. And so we had to start again, because we don't accumulate. You have to have 20 years, 15 to 20 years of sustained high-level economic growth. I think that most of you are familiar with the term, we had growth without jobs, we had growth without job creation. That was because essentially only part of our economy was growing. But with technology, in many of our mining centers, we were not hiring many people. So even though commodity prices were high, it was going to a very few segment of the population. The Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is asking us to diversify our economies, to do differently, to do better. That graph shows you essentially how diversified or how not diversified the economies, particularly of Central Africa, are. The numbers are essentially the products that we export. Angola is basically oil, Chad is basically oil, Congo is oil. Cameroon, however, begins to emerge from the Central Africa zone as one of the countries that is quite diversified. We could do better, we could do much, much better. But we are already moving towards, I think, an important and productive base. And that is precisely why the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is important, because as we sit as the largest economy in the Central Africa zone, with a more diversified economy, an economy that has both natural resources, has minerals, but also has skills and services as part of its economic base, we are best placed to be able to leapfrog, but not leapfrog as one country, leapfrog as a sub-region, because you will see that we cannot exist without our neighbors, and I think this is the importance of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. It is looking at the collective, it's not looking at the individual country. That is Cameroon's export map. What do we do, what do we export? Essentially 29% energy products, 17% agricultural products, 12% wood, transport and storage, that is the services sector, which today is the sector that is growing the fastest in Cameroon, but also on the continent. Agro-food processing as well, livestock, hunting, and a lot more that Cameroon is able to export, but for which we need to do better and for which we need to do more. And I think this is the story of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is Cameroon, unlike many countries in the sub-region, and you would have heard by now a conversation around sort of the macroeconomic crises in the sub-region, it essentially comes from this graph. When oil prices plummet, Angola only has one good. When oil prices plummet, Chad only has one good. So they go into crisis. Cameroon does not go into crisis because we are diversified, and therefore we can balance and smooth out our expenditure patterns. But it is not enough, because when Angola goes into crisis, Angola no longer demands Cameroonian goods. Chad no longer demands Chadian goods. So it's a demand and supply problem. And that is why regional integration is important. It's not enough for Cameroon to do well. Cameroon must do well in a global environment that is also doing well. And this is the importance of the story that we are telling here. It is economic integration. It is economic interdependence that ensures that together we can pull ourselves out, as Agenda 2063 talks about. So what are we talking about when we talk about the diversification of our economies? We're really looking at one, I think something that is particularly important to you in this room. As you sit here today, in a few years you will probably be looking for a job, you will want to join the working populations. And we're hoping that we can create jobs fast enough to include as many Africans as we can. 16 million Africans a year need to enter the job market and find jobs. 16 million Africans is a huge number. If we do not diversify our economies, if we do not start producing differently in the services sector, we will never be able to get the number of jobs that we need and or reduce poverty at the rates in which we need them. Cameroon is not the only country that has worked to say it needs to diversify and increase its jobs. We have experience from many other countries in the world that have shown us that this is possible. Let me go to some of the examples. Singapour. Si nous regardons des chiffres sur le Singapour en 1960-1969, Singapour était plus ou moins là où le Cameroun est aujourd'hui. Quelques années plus tard, ils ont un PIB par tête de 70 000. Nous insistons sur le PIB par tête parce que quand nous parlons du PIB, nous parlons un peu de revenu national d'un pays, mais il faudrait parler du PIB par tête parce que c'est important sur deux raisons. Premièrement, PIB par tête donne un peu qu'est-ce qui se passe avec la personne. Parce que nous avons beaucoup de pays sur le continent où le PIB, donc le produit intérieur brut, c'est-à-dire ce que le pays produit, est énorme, est immense. Mais quand nous divisons par la population, ce chiffre baisse. Ce chiffre baisse davantage si le taux d'augmentation de la population est plus forte que le taux de croissance du produit intérieur brut. Ça veut dire, par exemple, au Cameroun, nous avons un taux de croissance de 3,5%, 4%, mais avec un taux de croissance de la population de 1,2%, 1,5%. Au fait, effectivement, le Cameroun ne croît que par 1,2%. Ce qui n'est pas beaucoup. Ça veut dire que le PIB par tête croît par à peu près 0,6%. Si nous voulons augmenter la richesse et créer moins de pauvres, nous devons faire beaucoup mieux. Et donc, c'est pour ça qu'il faudrait faire cette différence entre le produit intérieur brut et le produit intérieur brut par tête, pour voir un peu quelles sont ces différences. Le Singapour donc, est passé d'une PIB par tête de presque $1 000. Aujourd'hui, le Cameroun est à peu près à $1 300, monsieur le ministre, le PIB par tête. Donc, c'était là où à Singapour était en 1960. Aujourd'hui, ils sont à 70 000. Ce n'est pas impossible d'y arriver. Nous avons un autre tableau qui montre un peu. Prenons, les gens vont dire pourquoi vous comparez le Cameroun avec le Singapour. Comparez-nous avec les pays qui sont un peu plus proches, les pays limitrophes, le Vietnam. Si nous voyons le cas du Vietnam, qui sont passés en 1990, donc il n'y a pas très longtemps, un PIB par tête de $6 000. Aujourd'hui, ils sont à un PIB par tête de $16 000. Le Cameroun, qui est la ligne rouge, n'a pas beaucoup bougé pendant le temps où le Vietnam passait de 6 000 à 16 000. Le Cameroun est resté à... En fait, on a même baissé un peu pour remonter. Et c'est là l'importance du PIB par tête par rapport au PIB. Car avec une population qui croît et une production qui ne croît pas aux mêmes vitesses ou plus supérieure à la vitesse de la croissance de la population, nous nous appauvrissons. Et c'est très important, je pense, comme différence pour comprendre un peu cette subtilité dans la discussion sur la croissance. C'est encore plus intéressant quand nous regardons, plus important quand nous regardons les inégalités et qu'est-ce qui se passe une fois qu'on a éclaté un peu ces chiffres sur la pauvreté et sur l'incidence de la richesse. Qu'est-ce que nous voyons? Nous voyons que le taux global de la pauvreté au Cameroun en 2007 était de 39%. Et en 2014, elle était de 37,5%. Donc, nous n'avons pas beaucoup réduit la pauvreté, même pendant cette période de croissance forte, avec les taux de matières premières qui étaient importantes, avec une croissance générale globale du continent, car on avait une population aussi qui montait en même temps. Mais plus important, et ce que nous voyons, c'est que les taux de pauvreté rurale sont restés above, en dessous de 50%. Donc, on a plus que la moitié de notre population qui vit dans une situation de pauvreté dans le monde rural. Dans le monde urbain, évidemment, nous sommes à 9%, à peu près 8,9%. Donc, nous avons baissé. Nous avons eu un taux de baisse de la pauvreté plus important par rapport au taux rural qui a plutôt augmenté. Donc, dans le monde rural, et ça, c'est l'incidence évidemment de changement climatique et des questions de conflit que nous voyons sur 3 de nos frontières. Nous regardons la pauvreté, nous voyons que nous n'avons pas beaucoup bougé. Mais les gens vont dire on a eu la croissance pendant cette période de croissance accrue à cause de l'augmentation des prix de matières premières, donc le Cameroun en bénéficie. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Les inégalités ont augmenté. Ça veut dire que les riches sont devenus plus riches et les pauvres sont devenus plus pauvres. Nous sommes aujourd'hui au Cameroun, un des pays où le Gini coefficient est un des plus aigus. Nous sommes presque aussi unequal que l'Afrique du Sud, avec des taux qui avoisinent les 44%. Ça c'est beaucoup. Ça veut dire presque la moitié de notre population is in the bottom 10 and another 10% is in the bottom top. Et si nous mélangeons ces deux aspects de vie individuelle de notre population, vous voyez très facilement Nous avons fait beaucoup d'études où nous savons que si la population n'a pas accès à l'emploi, si la population n'a pas accès à une autodétermination, you get conflict. Et donc, cette présentation de la pauvreté au Cameroun nous donne déjà quelques esquisses de pourquoi il y a cette manque, cette instabilité, because instability creates conflict. Development takes away conflict, and that's a particularly important point. Qu'est-ce que ça a à voir avec la zone, encore une fois, de libre-échange? C'est que maintenant, avec la zone de libre-échange économique et le travail que nous avons fait à la CEA, nous voyons qu'avec la zone de libre-échange économique, l'Afrique, quand elle fait le commerce avec elle-même, elle ajoute de la valeur, elle augmente les produits dont elle veut, avec laquelle elle veut faire du commerce, elle crée plus d'emplois et surtout, elle crée plus d'emplois pour les jeunes et pour les femmes. Et nous savons très souvent que quand il y a un conflit, c'est les jeunes, et surtout les jeunes garçons qui n'ont pas un emploi, qui sont susceptibles d'aller vers ce conflit. Et nous avons beaucoup d'expérience au nord du Nigeria, évidemment, dans tout le Sahel, dans le sud du Sénégal. Nous avons fait, je pense sûrement que ça existe, des études au Cameroun qui montrent que dans la saison de pluie ou dans la saison de récolte, les conflits baissent partout dans le continent parce qu'il y a du travail, on embauche tout le monde pour aller faire la récolte. Une fois la fin de la récolte, sans travail, conflicts go back up. So there is a very clear link between conflict and employment. Le problème, c'est que quand nous parlons du chômage en Afrique, c'est très difficile de parler du chômage en Afrique. Pourquoi? Parce que la moitié des Africains sont des travailleurs saisonniers. Pourquoi? À cause du manque de cet emploi à temps duré. L'emploi saisonnier, évidemment, c'est 3 mois de la saison de récolte et 3 mois de la saison de semences. Et sur les 6 mois qui restent, the youth have nothing to do. So they find the next best job. Most of the time, the terrorists can pay them off. So we get conflict. This is true across the continent, from Algeria to the Sahel, to Senegal, to Boko Haram and El-Shabaab in Kenya. The evidence repeats itself. If you have temporary unemployment, there is a high risk of conflict. So, notre secrétaire général parle toujours de ce tripod, conflict, peace and security and development. The two come together. Et encore une fois de plus, pourquoi la zone de libre-échange continentale? Nous pensons, avec une économie de 1,2 milliard de personnes, la demande interne de consommation va nécessairement augmenter. Si cette demande augmente avec les nouvelles technologies, les pays comme le Cameroun, nous n'avons pas besoin d'avoir 2 saisons de semences ou de récoltes. We can produce all year round. You go to countries like Senegal, they now produce rice all year round because of technology. Cameroon can do the same. We can become an agricultural producer all year round. That is the importance of the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, because markets open up. When markets open up, demand increases, and when demand increases, you can increase supply. There's no point increasing supply if you don't have the demand. So as you open up into a market, today the Central African market is 173 million people. The West African market is 300 million people. The East African market is 600 million people. So you begin to look at that. When there's no maize in Cameroon, we can get maize from Malawi. Malawi can sell maize to Cameroon in a month when it produces maize, and the reverse. Today, half of the chicken that is consumed on the continent comes from Brazil, because we do not have enough corn in West and Central Africa to produce, to entertain our poultry sector. We can get the corn from Malawi. I think this is the power of the Free Trade Area Agreement, is that countries would specialize in their areas of competitiveness, and then they can export to their neighboring countries and begin to build a supply chain. I always use an example of cotton. Chad produces cotton, Cameroon, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. We export raw cotton to China. The cotton is processed in China, then it is sent to Ethiopia, where it is stitched and then sent to the United States. We could actually do the cotton in the Sahel, process it in Lesotho, and send it to Ethiopia for it to be stitched. That is value addition, and it stays on the continent, and we create jobs on the continent. This is the story of the Free Trade Area Agreement. It's not just building one economy, it's building a continental economy and ensuring that that continental economy works. Another example, today we import 14.7 billion Minister of Finance will appreciate this. $14.7 billion worth of drugs from outside the continent. But Kenya produces drugs, Egypt produces drugs, South Africa produces drugs. But because of the barriers across our economies, we cannot sell and trade those drugs. Africa accounts for 25% of the illnesses and the drug consumption in the world. We produce 2%. $14.7 billion worth of drugs, 6 million jobs. Kenya, Egypt, Cameroon, South Africa are countries that have pharmaceutical industries. With the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we could produce the jobs on the continent, we could sell them cheaper, which means that we will be healthier, which means we will work better. So again, the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is really not just connecting us with trade, it's connecting us with innovation, it's connecting us with jobs, it's connecting us with better livelihoods. It's certainly reducing our poverty and eventually reducing conflict. So I think when we look at the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, that is what we see. We call it a trade agreement. It is also an investment agreement. Because to be able to trade, we need to invest. We are lucky in Cameroon. Access to energy is 75%, 70%, but in many of our countries, it's much less. With the CFTA, we will start trading energy and ensuring that many more of our countries become competitive. Infrastructure becomes an important part of this. Today, it costs 40% more to export when you produce off of the continent, 40% more. Because first you have barriers. If you're coming from particularly a landlocked country, Mali, Niger, Chad, you have to pay all the corruption duties to get to the port. Then when you get to the port, you have to pay some more corruption duties. So that by the time your ship gets out of the country, it's impossible. The Free Trade Area Agreement is looking to take away all those stops. But the Free Trade Area Agreement will not be successful if we do not also lift the non-tariff barriers, which are the non-tariff constraints that we also put on the economies. So we are also working to ensure that non-tariff barriers get taken away. So I hope I have convinced you enough that the Free Trade Area Agreement is something that as a continent, and in particular since we're starting in Cameroon, Cameroon signed the agreement in March, but we hope that Cameroon will ratify the agreement in June before we get to Niger in July for that conversation. Now, what is the importance of the Free Trade Area Agreement and the link with the digital economy? When we talk about the Free Trade Area Agreement, nous pensons, quand nous parlons de la zone de libre-échange continentale, nous parlons surtout d'un commerce des produits. Mais au fait, quand nous regardons aujourd'hui toutes les économies africaines, nous avons toute une économie de services qui émerge. L'importance de cette économie de services, c'est que nous n'avons pas besoin d'aller chercher de l'emploi. Vous tous, vous pouvez être, et je crois que quand le recteur parlait, vous avez parlé des banques de curriculum en finance, en dispute settlement, dispute resolution, which is an important part of the Free Trade Area Agreement. I think the big part of the Free Trade Area Agreement, et même les grands discours qui sont aujourd'hui à l'OMC, c'est tout sur comment résoudre les conflits commerciaux. Et les conflits commerciaux, et donc ne vous sentez pas loin de cette problématique, car je pense avec la zone de libre-échange continentale, il y aurait toute une ouverture sur le secteur service, les avocats, sur le dispute resolution, le secteur des finances. Aujourd'hui au Cameroun, nous avons un secteur émergent de fintech qui est où nous ne sommes pas encore, je crois, à la mesure du Kenya, les grands boules, c'est combien de fintech, des entreprises de financial technology, donc ça veut dire des plateformes d'échange de finances émergent. Le Cameroun émerge un peu, nous avons un tout petit boule, mais nous pensons, évidemment les premiers pays qui ont signé la ZLECA, c'est le Kenya, c'est le Rwanda, c'est l'Afrique du Sud, vous voyez les boules. Et créer en même temps un secteur service assez important. Et nous pensons qu'il y a tout ce secteur, surtout avec un Cameroun, qu'il y a tous ces pays enclavés qui auront besoin de transport logistique, de services logistiques, qui auront besoin de back-office services parce que tous les services de comptabilité vont être déplacés. Donc il y aurait toute une économie qui va ouvrir. Aujourd'hui, l'économie numérique est estimée à peu près 300 milliards d'ici 2025, mais 2,3 trillions d'ici 2030. Imaginez-vous si l'Afrique, et le Cameroun en particulier, peut prendre même 10%. Aujourd'hui, nous parlons de Silicon Mountain in Boya. Mais pour que Silicon Valley in Boya devienne comme Silicon Savannah in Kenya, où aujourd'hui nous avons des jeunes who make $10,000 an hour because they are actually in the internet service, they're not looking for government jobs anymore. They are creating their own platforms, they're creating their own jobs. Parce que quand nous parlons de l'économie numérique, nous ne voulons pas seulement parler de l'utilisation d'un portable. This is, I think, dépassé. Nous voulons une économie numérique où les Africains eux-mêmes créent des logiciels, créent des entreprises, ont la propriété intellectuelle. Car qu'est-ce qui se passe aujourd'hui? Je n'ai pas encore regardé au Cameroun, mais si nous prenons des pays comme le Kenya, l'enregistrement de la propriété intellectuelle, c'est $3,000. Un jeune ne peut pas payer $3,000 pour une bonne idée. Ce qui fait qu'une entreprise externe, Google, comes and buys it at $10 and goes and does an IPO for $10 million. And we've lost the idea, but we've lost the jobs. So part of that process is to ensure that we can also keep our intellectual property. But to be able to do that, we need to put in place the systems and the processes and the institutions that work on that. La CEI a été mandatée par les chefs d'État de l'Afrique pour développer une stratégie digitale numérique pour le continent en travaillant avec l'Union africaine. Donc nous sommes aujourd'hui en pleine consultation. Nous avons lancé un centre d'excellence digitale où nous allons commencer à travailler sur d'abord l'harmonisation des règles, les régulations autour de l'économie digitale, l'infrastructure. Nous travaillons avec la Banque mondiale, la Banque africaine de développement, la BAD, la BE, pour financer, car on aurait besoin de ces infrastructures. Nous avons besoin de 3 choses. L'accès, d'abord étendre l'accès à l'économie digitale. Nous avons vu les chiffres sur la pauvreté rurale. Si nous avons l'économie digitale dans le monde rural, nous pouvons tout de suite augmenter d'abord les prix des produits alimentaires. Aujourd'hui au Kenya, une femme à l'intérieur du Kenya peut regarder le courbe du thé et s'assurer que quand elle vend le thé au commerçant qui est devant elle, elle connaît le courbe à Nairobi and she can quote that price. So immediately your revenues go up because you don't get penalized for distance, because with the digital economy, distance shrinks. You have the same information at the same time that the person in Nairobi has. You don't have to wait for 3 months to get that information. And this is the importance of it, particularly to women. So that's what we're working on. We're also working on the infrastructure. In Cameroon today, broadband access, because when we talk about the digital economy is 10% of our contribution to GDP. It has come up from 2007 at 2.3% to 10%. It can go much, much higher. In many economies, it's now at 30-40%. But you need reform. We need openness. We need the government of Cameroon to liberalize the economy. We are all talking about 3G in Cameroon. I think when you land, your phone picks up 3G. We need to get to 5G, and we can. But we need policy that opens the market. What is the importance of getting to 5G? And you see a lot of the discussion on the trade war between the United States and China. It's about 5G. It's about the speed at which you can deliver a service. Next week, I'm going to be going to China to meet with Alipay and Alibaba. They have something that they call 310. 3 is the amount of time it takes you to apply for a loan. 1 is the amount of 1 minute, so 3 minutes you apply for the loan. 1 minute, they analyze your credit history. And 0 is the number of people they have turned down. So 310. And they access and analyze 100 million requests an hour. This is what the digital economy does for you. Some of that is already happening in Kenya, so we don't have to go all the way to China. Why? Because as you use the digital platform, we can get a sense of your credit history. We know what you're selling, we know what you're buying, we have a sense of your bank account. So even a woman who doesn't have access to a bank, we can get her credit history. We can have a sense of what is her income and what is her revenue. And with that, when she applies for a loan, you can modulate and say, well, every morning she takes $10, in the evening she puts $5, so she can actually pay over 3 years, $300, we can give her $300. That's what the digital economy does. It fixes an innumerable amount of problems. And I think this is the miracle of the future. But again, the good thing about it is that in Cameroon, We have artificial intelligence. Cameroon has the largest number of artificial intelligence startups in Africa, despite everything that's happening. So they are able to do it, as young kids in Boya and Douala and Yaoundé are able to do this in spite of all the handicaps. So now just imagine, Mr. Minister, Mr. Rector, government officials, if we were to open this sector, increase access, reduce cost, improve quality, I think we will be able to create an innumerable amount of jobs. However, to do that, we also need to give every Cameroonian an identity. An identity is important because to trade on those platforms, you need to identify yourself for security, for terrorism. And so one of the pieces of work that we're doing, and I'm going to end with that, is the work around digital ID. In Africa today, we have 500 million Africans that do not have ID. Some of them because of internally displaced people, because of migration, because of refugees, but some of it just because of pure government policy. In some countries, you don't register people. Your mother is not educated enough, so she forgets to register you, and so you grow up without an ID and you don't have access to school. So part of what we want to use the digital economy to do is to register people. India was able to register 1 billion people in a 4-year period. 1 billion people in India all got a digital ID in 4 years. We believe that on Africa, we have 500 million people. At the ECA, we are now working with the Indians, with the Chinese, with the Estonians, with the Ukrainians, with Seychelles, with Kenya, with Rwanda, that all have digital centers, to see how we can fast-track the digital ID process. We're hoping, as part of our discussions here this week, we've been talking about what we can do with the digital space, and we're hoping that we can also do that in Cameroon and do it quickly enough so that we can have more access to the digital space in Cameroon and much faster. I will give you the slides. I have cut short them because I know that we are out of time. But I think, again, on the digital space, and I had a lot of murmur when I talked about the 310, but there is a lot more potential. With digital, we can actually reduce the cost of transfers. Today we do a lot of transfers, but when you transfer resources from Yaoundé to the north, to Kusuri, by the time it goes there, half of it is gone with corruption, the other half of it is gone with time. With digital technology, you can do that quite quickly. And so there's a whole dematerialization process that saves resources to the state and ensures that the money goes to where it's supposed to go. So I think the potential of the digital economy, when you look at it overall, and this is what the ECA Digital Center is doing, it touches everything. It goes from elections, it goes from women empowerment and financial inclusion to healthcare. There are now hospitals that are paperless. And I give you another example. We have a colleague of ours who got on a plane from the United States to Ivory Coast, forgot his glasses in the lounge in Ivory Coast, and then went down to South Africa and now they needed new glasses. And they asked him, do you have your prescription? And he said no. If that was happening to somebody from Dubai, he would give a number and his prescription would come out and he would be able to get his glasses. So you don't need to carry paper. That is what the power of the digital economy. African countries are already doing that. Paperless hospitals, portability of your degrees. If you leave Cameroon and you go somewhere, you just need a number to show your degree and show your job. So we are really hoping that when we put together the digital economy, the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, and finally free movement of people, you begin to get an Africa that can emerge as a powerful, strong Africa where poverty, it will be a question of the long time past. We will become not like Vietnam, like Singapore. I think that's where we want to be, $70,000 GDP per capita. We know it's possible. It is going to be possible because of the policymakers that we hope will listen to us and follow us along that journey. So I hope I have left you with enough of encouragement and conviction that the digital economy, the service economy, combined with the Free Trade Area Agreement is a game changer for the continent. And I think we have gone clearly from political independence of the continent to economic independence of the continent. And I think this is something that we should be proud of. As Nelson Mandela always said, it's impossible until it's done. We have now done it. We just need to sit down and reap the benefits of it. Thank you very much.